In today's video, it's all about spring and thrift flips. So let's get into it with DIY number 1. For my first thrift flip, I'm starting with this tin wall decor. Now, it almost feels like I'm cheating because it already had all these pretty swirls on there. And oftentimes we add those with clay, but it already had them. So this is such an easy thrift flip. And I love how it turned out. I hope you do too. Now, I did have to add some salt wash to the paint because there were a few scratches and I was trying to disguise those. But when I was cleaning it, this yellow, I don't know what that is, but I want to seal it because I don't want that to come up through the paint. So I used shellac and I applied 3 coats of the shellac. I let it dry, and now I can apply that paint with the salt wash. I'm using a chip brush because I have the salt wash in the paint and I want to be able to just throw the chip brush away when I'm done. But you can see it's not a great paint job. So to fix that, I go over everything with a pouncer. Once I got this painted, I set it aside, and when I went to check on it to see if it was dry, it was covered in crackle. So it had to have been from the shellac. So you'll have to let me know. Has this ever happened to you? Now, I love crackle, so I'm okay with it. I will be painting it in another color. This is Fusion Buttermilk Cream, and it's from Sonnet's Curated Maker's Box, and I think it's the February box. Next, I'm using this JRV grain sack stencil, and I need to find something to weigh it down because of the raised areas. It's going to be a little tricky to stencil, so I'm going to weigh it down with this gallon of glue. It's too freshly painted to use tape, so that's why I want to use the glue. Now, this blue is also from Sonnet's Curated Maker's Box. And I love blue and yellow together, and I really love this color of blue. You'll have to let me know what you think. It was a little tricky with the thin stripes, but I just used one hand to hold down the stencil, and then I pounced with my JRV stencil brush. And the key to getting a good clean stripe or whatever, a good clean stencil, is you want to offload most of the paint. That's why I have the paper towel there on the left, to offload most of the paint before I start to pounce. Okay, now to do the middle section. And I know I have a larger stencil brush. So if you have the right tools, you need to use them. So I'm going off right now to go look for that stencil brush. And now that I've found it, it's going so much faster. Now I'm also speeding it up, but using the right tool does make a difference. However, if you don't have a stencil brush, using those pouncers, those would work well too. And overall, I was happy with the way it looks. I do need to touch up a few areas, but no big deal. And you can see I forgot to take off the sticker, but this tin was only $1.97. So wait till you see it when it's all done. I think it's a good one. Now, I did lightly sand the stripes. And to finish this tin, I'll be applying a transfer. If you've never used a transfer before, they add so much to any project. Now, they might seem a little pricey the first time you buy one, but you get a lot of bang for your buck. They come with so many sheets of transfers, and you can cut them apart to make them fit on your project. Now you want to leave that sheet on until you're ready to place it. And then once you place your transfer, you just use this tool and you just keep rubbing, and that's going to adhere the transfer to your project. Once the transfer's down, you take that carrier sheet and you just rub over all the transfers. You're just making sure that everything is adhered well. And now we need to seal it. And I'm using Wiseowl 1 Hour Sealer. And here's how my $1.97 tin turned out. You'll have to let me know what you think. I cannot wait to put this up in my kitchen. DIY number 2. I am really trying to use things in my stash that I've had a while, and I thrifted this quite a while ago. I painted it, and then I didn't do anything with it. So today, it's going to get a makeover, and I'm starting by using the Fusion Mineral Paint in the color Peony. When I saw this decoupage paper, I knew I had to use it for the spring video. I think it is so pretty. Now here I'm just using my water pen, which just dampens the paper and makes it easier to tear off the white border around the print. I tried to use my ruler, but there just wasn't enough paper to grab, so I had to go back to the pen. I'm using Wiseowl Clear Matte Sealer for my decoupage medium. Once I got the picture centered, I decoupaged the middle first, and then I worked my way out to the right, and then I went to the left. I just think this helps to keep the picture straight while you're applying the decoupage medium. And I'm using plastic wrap to smooth down the paper. That helps with bubbles and any wrinkles. And now I'll go over all the paper with the sealer. I wanted the handles to be the same color as the bucket, and they were a little difficult to paint, so I added some salt wash to the paint, and then I pounced the paint onto the handles, and that worked much better. I also pounced the paint around the rim of the bucket. And here's how my spring bucket turned out. Now, doesn't it look like I just went and picked those flowers? But I live in Las Vegas, and I could never grow flowers like that. Can you grow flowers where you live? You'll have to let me know. But don't make me too jealous. DIY number 3. For my next thrift flip, it is so easy. I don't even know if I can call it a flip, but I love baskets. But look at the color of this basket. And the easiest way to paint a basket is with spray paint. And I love this color, Serenity Blue. I applied 3 coats of the spray paint. I let it dry, and now I'm using Waverly White Wax to finish this basket. And I love how this turned out. I just applied the wax and then I wiped it back with a soft cloth. And that was it. Such an easy transformation, but what a difference. You'll have to let me know, are you a basket lover like me? And on to DIY number 4. Next, I'm taking this little picture frame. I'm going to call it that because it has a stand in the back. And you're probably supposed to put little pictures in these clips. I think this thing is super cute, but I'm going to have it fit more of my decor using one of my favorite decoupage papers. The top is wood and the little bird is out of some kind of metal, but I want it to really look like it's a metal. So I'm going to use Dixie Belle patina paint in iron. So to get it to look like iron, you just apply a nice coat of paint. You let that coat dry, then you apply a second coat of paint. Here I've applied the second coat of paint and I just need to apply the spray. Except the spray bottle's not working, so I will be painting it on with a paintbrush. This is the first time, I think this is the first time I've used the iron, so I'm not quite sure how it's going to turn out, but normally the process takes a few hours. You just put it on and then you just let it sit. Now it's completely dry and I need to remove the tape and I tear the paper. And I do not want to remove all of this paper. So I'm just going to try to sand it so it looks smooth because next I'll be applying some decoupage paper. And removing paper from these things sometimes can be a nightmare, and I had to do that on my last video, and I don't want to do it again. So I'm just using some sandpaper to make it smooth. Now, I don't normally cut decoupage paper, but this time I just try to get that line of the roof, and I am going to cut it out so that it fits nicely under the roof line. Now, it's always a good idea to have a white paint underneath your decoupage paper. And I found this wall paint in my garage while I was cleaning, and I thought, this is where I should be using this up. But I don't think I got it mixed well, so you can see how poorly the coverage is for this first coat. I have a Thrifted immersion blender, and I am going to use that and try to mix up this paint and see if I can improve the coverage. And that is definitely what was needed because the coverage was much better. I'll be using the same Wise Owl sealer in a matte finish for my decoupage medium. And sometimes when you're using a clear sealer, it's hard to know if you have good coverage, so I'm just checking it out before I apply the paper. Since I had worked with this decoupage paper before, I knew that I would be able to lift it and readjust it so I could get up right next to the line of the roof. And once I have it down, this time I'm using a grocery bag to smooth it out because I couldn't find my saran wrap. And now I just need to apply a coat of the decoupage medium over the top of the paper. And once it's dry, I'll be using a sander, and then I'm going to switch to a nail file that's 100 grit to sand off the extra paper and give it a nice finished edge. And I love the way the nail file works. it just makes it so easy to get that extra paper off. It did take me a minute to find the holes, the original holes for the little hooks, but I just needed to get those back on. I wanted to add a little rust to the roof line, so I used some cinnamon and my sealer, and I just added a couple little spots to make it look rusty. And here's how my updated thrifted frame turned out. And here's a close-up of the iron and rust. And on to DIY number 5. Here is another quick one. Now, I have been cleaning my craft room and I came across these 3 little birds, and 2 of them had their noses broken. So I don't know if I purchased them that way knowing that I can fix them or if I broke the noses. Either way, I'm fixing it with some Crayola air dried clay. Once I got their little noses back on, and while the clay was still wet, I used my leftover pink peony paint with the salt wash, and I pounced it on the 3 birds. That's not easy to say. Once the paint was dry, I used the Waverly white wax and I applied it to each bird, and then I went over it with a soft cloth to wipe off the extra wax. And because I got paint all over the legs and the feet, I used this brush metal acrylic paint to touch up the legs and the feet. And I love these little birds now. I think they add so much. They were so fun trying to put them in different vignettes. And on to our final thrift flip. For my next thrift flip, I'm going to take this rustic box and I'm going to turn it into a rustic box, just with a little bit of a different look. And I need to remove this rope so that I can paint it. I am going to save it just in case I want to use it at the end. Whenever I'm flipping a project that has wording on it, I always like to sand that down. I just want to make sure it's not going to peek through when I paint this project. And this little box was a splinter waiting to happen, so I really needed to give it a good sanding. And I am trying milk paint again, this time Fusion. I have not been successful with achieving a chippy look in the past, but I am not going to give up. It's easy to make. You just mix together equal parts of water and the powder. You wait about 10 minutes and you apply the paint. It has a pretty watery consistency, but I am still trying to put on a heavy first coat. And here it is after 2 coats of the milk paint. I used the heat gun and still no chip. So I just sanded it down to give it that rustic look that I'm going for. I sealed it with some wax, and that was clear wax. Now to age it, I'll be adding some dark wax. And to finish the box, I'm going to apply some rubber stamps. Now I'm spacing out the letters, and then I'm going to use my mount. Now, I could not get those letters to stick to that mount. So what you can't see is that I have those little glue dots on those letters to get it to stick. And then I saw Myra from Farm Fresh Designs 59 use this little gadget, and I love a good gadget. And it just helps you apply even pressure to your stamps. Now, my box is not really flat, so I had a little trouble, but it's because it's rustic. I'm just going over each letter individually that needed a little help. And once the ink was dry, I gave the letters a good sanding because I am going rustic. Can you ever have it look too rustic? Now, the second set of stamps, I think it is so cute, and I think it would be so cute for journaling. Anyway, now I'm just using the flowers off the stamp, but when I do the next flower, it's not going to turn out. But I want to show you how easy it is to fix it when it messes up if you're quick with a baby wipe. I added a few more flowers. I don't know what happened, but I had ink everywhere. But you can clean your hands and your stamps with baby wipes. And here's how my rustic box, that was a rustic box, turned out. Now, I love to propagate houseplants and collect little bottles to put those in, so that's what I'm using this box for. And here's a recap of all the projects in today's video. Do you have a favorite? I really love that tin and that basket. I think those two are my favorite. But I'd love to know what you think. If you're a content creator and would like to join a collaboration for April, all on Thrift Flips, see the information in my description box. And if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.